ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाखाय चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूप कदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकं। वन्देऽहं श्रीगुरून् श्रीयुतपदकमलं श्रीगुरून् वैष्णवांश्च श्रीरूपं साग्रजातां सहगण रघुनाथान्वितं तं सजीवं साद्वैतं सार्वधूतं परिजनसहितं कृष्णचैतन्यदेवं श्रीराधा कृष्णपदां सहगण ललिता श्रीविशाखान्वितांश्च नमो विष्णुपदाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीनबंधु जगत्पते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते। तप्त कांचन गौरांगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये। वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुनेव च पतितानं पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। So thank you for joining this morning session. I welcome you all for this morning session. So we'll just quickly start with the 17th mantra. I think we were on paragraph number 11. We had to start. Yeah. Somebody read this paragraph. All the facilities suggested in the.
Yes.
Hare Krishna.
Yeah, Mohana Mataji, please read.
Okay. All the facilities suggested in this mantra can be easily obtained by constant contact with the personal feature of the absolute truth. Devotional service to the Lord consists essentially of 9 transcendental activities: hearing about the Lord, glorify the Lord, remembering the Lord, serving the lotus feet of the Lord, worshipping the Lord, offering prayer to the Lord, serving the Lord, enjoying friendly association with the Lord, and surrendering everything unto the Lord. These 9 principles of devotional service, taken all together or one by one, help a devotee remain constantly in touch with God. In this way, at the end of life, it's easy for the devotee to remember the Lord by adopting only one this nine principle. The following renowned devotee of the Lord were able to achieve the highest perfection by hearing of the Lord. Maharaja Parikshit, the hero of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained the desired result just by glorifying the Lord. Shukadeva Goswami, the speaker of Srimad Bhagavatam, attained his perfection by praying to the Lord. Akura attained the desired result by remembering the Lord. Prahalada Maharaj attained the desired result. By worshipping the Prithu Maharaj attained perfection. By serving the lotus feet of the Lord, by goddess of fortune Lakshmi attained perfection. By rendering personal service to the Lord, Lord Hanuman attained the desired result. Through his friendship with Lord, Arjuna attained desired result by surrendering everything he had to the Lord. Maharaj Bali attained desired result.
Read.
Okay. Actually, the explanation of this mantra and practically all the mantras of Vedic hymns is summarized in the Vedanta Sutra and properly explained in Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is the mature fruit of the Vedic tree of wisdom. In Srimad Bhagavatam, this particular mantra is explained in the question and answer between Maharaja Parikshit and Shukadeva Goswami at very beginning of their meeting. Hearing and chanting of the signs of God is a basic principle of devotional life. The complete Bhagavatam was heard by Maharaja Parikshit and chanted by Shukadeva Goswami. Maharaja Parikshit inquired from Shukadeva because Shukadeva was greater spiritual master than any great yogi and transcendentalist of his time.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Mataji.
So, if you see in these two paragraphs, what is the essence that is they are saying in this particular paragraph is that anybody who wants to remember the Supreme Lord can follow any of these 9 processes of devotional service, and the end result will be that he will be able to remember the Supreme Personality of Godhead at the time of death. So Krishna's mercy is ever available through devotional service. So whatever type of devotional service you do, either you do hearing, you do chanting, you do shravan, kirtan, smaranam, you want to serve the Supreme Lord. So all these facilities of the devotional service, they are available. But Prabhupada many times says that these impersonalists, they deny these services because they are too much attached to the Brahma Jyoti feature of the Lord. And whatever facilities that are suggested in this particular mantra, they can be easily obtained by all the time associating with the personal feature of the absolute truth. So these 9 processes of bhakti that are there, Shravanam, Kirtanam, Vishnu and all. So these are actually 9 principles of devotional service. And slowly, if you, take it step by step, so it will help a particular devotee to always remain in touch with the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. And at the end of life, the person will be able to remember the Supreme Lord very swiftly and very easily. He does not have to, struggle. Like last time I was saying that if a particular person, he has not prepared for his, 10th standard board examinations. So he won't be able to, write fluently in his examinations because he has not studied, he has not practiced. He does not have that speed to even write. So all our life, if we have not practiced devotional service, if we've not practiced remembering the Supreme Lord, we've not done Shravanam, we've not done Kirtanam, because Bhagavatam means only Shravanam. So Parikshit Maharaj perfected his life through doing, Shravanam. And Kirtanam. Kirtanam also purifies, because all the time when you're speaking, somebody's preaching, then that time also he's remembering the Supreme Lord. And when Shravanam, Kirtanam are very strong, then Smaranam is very swift. It is like a concomitant factor. Automatically, the end result will be that you'll be remembering the Lord 24/7. Like how Parikshit Maharaj and Shukdev Goswami were, one was doing Shravanam, the other was doing Kirtanam, and both were remembering the Lord 24/7 in those 7 days. So these 9 principles are very important. And if somebody even strengthens one of that principle, somebody strengthens only Shravanam, somebody strengthens only Kirtanam, somebody will strengthen only, giving up everything to the Supreme Lord, still he will be able to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. And it's all about, how you, leave this model world, how you leave this material world. It's all about that. So at the end of the life, it will be very easy for a devotee to remember the Supreme Lord. This is what is being said in these two mantras. Let's read the next mantra, next paragraph. Yeah, Indrayani Mataji, please read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Maharaja Parikshit's main question was, what is the duty of every man, especially at the time of death? Sukadev Goswami answered, Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma Bhagavan Ishvaro Harihi Strotvayah Kirtitavyascha Smartavyas Cheta Cheta Chehatab Chehatabhyabhayam. Everyone who desires to be free from all anxieties should always hear about, glorify, and remember the personality of Godhead, who is the supreme director of everything, the extinguisher of all difficulties, and the supersoul of all living entities. Bhagavatam 2.1.5.
Yeah. So in this particular paragraph, what is Prabhupada trying to say is that Tasmad Bharata Sarvatma. So he is trying to say that anybody, Bhagwan Ishwaroho Hari, Bhagwan ईश्वर है लेकिन कौन है भगवान है और वो भगवान कौन है हरि है and anybody who is doing Shrotavya, Shravanam, Kirtanam, and then he immediately what he will be doing, he will be able to get out of this anxiety, but he has to, the condition is he has to always hear. And um, so the supreme person is actually the person who is extinguishing all the difficulties, all your anxieties, and the super soul who is there within the heart. If somebody is desiring that, okay, I want to get free from all these anxieties, then the Supreme Lord within the heart is definitely helping that particular living entity to get rid of or be free from his anxieties. Okay. Okay, read the 13th paragraph. Sucharita, read.
So-called human society is generally engaged at night in sleeping and having sex, and during the daytime in earning as much money as possible, or else in shopping for family maintenance. People have very little time to talk about the personality of Godhead or to inquire about him. They have dismissed God's existence in so many ways, primarily by declaring him to be impersonal, that is, without sense perception. But in the Vedic literature, whether the Upanishads, Vedanta Sutra, Bhagavad Gita, or Srimad Bhagavatam, it is declared that the Lord is a sentient being and is supreme over all other living entities. His glorious activities are identical with himself. One should therefore not indulge in hearing and speaking of the rubbish activities of worldly politicians and so-called big men in society, but should mold his life in such a way that he can engage in godly activities without wasting a second. Sri Ishopanishad directs us toward such godly activities.
Yeah, you can read this also.
Unless one is accustomed to devotional service, what will he remember at the time of death? When the body is dislocated, and how can he pray to the Almighty Lord to remember his sacrifices? Sacrifice means denying the interest of the senses. One has to learn this art by employing the senses in the service of the Lord during one's lifetime. One can utilize the results of such practice at the time of death. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much. So Now in these two paragraphs, what is being said is that the Supreme Lord that is there, you know, how can you prepare for death? By devotional service. Okay. So, Parikshit Maharaj's main question was, what is the duty of a dying man, specifically at the time of death? And that's where, Shukdev Goswami was answering the question that Tasmat Bharata Sarvatma. And one should not indulge, he's saying that we should not indulge. So what should we indulge in speaking? What should we indulge in hearing? What should be our activities? What should be, how should we mold our life in such a way that we can only engage in godly activities without wasting even a nanosecond. And Shri ISHOPANISHAD is directing us towards all these godly activities. So, so it is all a matter of practice. So if somebody is actually accustomed to this practice of devotional service every moment, then he will be able to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. Because when the body is dislocated, then how is it possible that he can pray to the Supreme Lord to remember his sacrifices? So that's where, sacrifice means denying whatever the interest of the senses are. Sometimes the interest of the senses will be, against Krishna consciousness. But we have to learn this art of employing the senses in the service of the Lord during this lifetime. So, and when you are actually employing the senses in the service of the Lord during your whole lifetime, then the results can be utilized at the time of death. Because if you have practiced, then at the time of death, you'll be able to remember the Supreme Lord. So now, if you see in this whole, this mantra, so it's just let me, you can just say it in summarize in this line that one has to learn the, art of employing the senses in the service of the Lord in this one lifetime, in one's lifetime or in this lifetime. So, so that he can utilize the results of such practice at the time of death. So in short, what we have seen in this particular mantra is that, what are the prayers to the Supreme Lord at the time of death? And then the living entity is existing even after the annihilation of this material body. And this material nature is actually a display of a very wonderful workmanship of the Supreme Lord. And there is, there is the cycle of evolution for this, the change of material body one after another. But the highest sense of spirituality is that we need to give up this material body and allow, the Supreme Lord to enter into our hearts, who is the eternal reservoir of, pleasure. So, and this, these changing bodies will stop. How can you stop these changing bodies? Or you can say that what is the highest perfection of changing bodies? Only when you get a spiritual body, then that's the highest perfection of changing bodies. And we also saw that there are so many, varieties of bodies, and variety. The more the number of desires, the more of number of varieties of bodies you'll have to take. So a person has to take. So this perfection of culture of knowledge is, when you keep on, gaining knowledge, and you keep on, acquiring knowledge, then somebody will come to the realization of Vasudeva Sarva Iti, that Vasudeva is an all in all. So Lord Sri Krishna is only all in all. And anybody who is actually realizing this, that Vasudeva is all in all, then he'll keep on practicing. And the Lord also never forgets the devotional service performed by the devotees. even when the devotee, forgets the Supreme Lord. And the 9 processes of devotional service, even if somebody is adapting one and he succeeds in, practicing one of the 9 devotional services also, so he will be able to remember the Supreme Lord at the time of death. So, there is a unanimous declaration of the Vedic literatures that the absolute truth is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So this is what has been, given into this 17th mantra. So, we need to really consider that, how all our material accomplishments will be of no use to us after we have left behind this material body. The only activity that is beneficial for, for us on the eternal platform is, devotional service to the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And for that, we need to really pay attention to our own priorities and activities, whatever we are doing. And and we'll have to focus on, are these activities that I'm doing are for the pleasure of the Supreme Lord, or am I pleasing the Supreme Lord as a devotional service to him, or I'm just focusing on simply maintaining the attachment to this material world. These are some of the things we need to really ponder on, or we need to really think upon or meditate upon, to remember the Supreme Lord throughout this lifetime. So let's go to the 18th mantra and let's see what the Supreme Lord has to say. What is Agnenaya Nyaya Suptaraye Asman Vishwani Deva Vayunani Vidan Yuyodhi Asmaj Jahuranam Eno Bhuyishtham Te Nama Uktim Videhama. So the speaker says that, "O my Lord, as powerful as fire, O omnipotent one, now I offer you all obeisances falling on the ground at your feet. O my Lord, please lead me on the right path to reach you. And since you know all that I have done in the past, please free me from the reactions to my past sins so that there will be no hindrance to my progress." Such a wonderful, translation given by. So, Parthasarthi Prabhu, please read this paragraph.
Hare Krishna. Report by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, Jai Srila Prabhupada. By surrendering to the Lord and praying for His causeless mercy, the devotee can progress on the path of complete self-realization. The Lord is addressed as fire because He can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of the surrendered soul. As described in the previous mantra, the real or ultimate aspect of the Absolute is His feature as the personality of Godhead, and impersonal Brahma Jyotir feature is a dazzling covering over His face. Fruitive activities or the Karma Kanda path of self-realization is the lowest stage in this endeavor. As soon as such activities even slightly deviate from the regulative principles of the Vedas, they are transformed into vikarma, or acts against the interest of the actor. Such vikarma is enacted by the illusion living entity simply for sense gratification, and thus such activities become hindrances on the path of self-realization. Hare Krishna.
Yeah, thank you so much. So see, there's a very powerful punchline over here which says that the Lord is addressed as fire because He can burn anything into ashes, including the sins of the surrendered soul. So in the Bhagavatam also, there is one shloka which comes in the 2nd chapter. 1st canto, 2nd chapter, 17th shloka, which says that Shrinvata Swakatha Krishna Punya Shravana Kirtana Hridhi Antasti Abhadrani Vidhunoti Surit Satam. The Lord, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who is the Super Soul, sitting in every living entity's heart, he is cleansing, those sins, of material enjoyment from the heart of a devotee who is having this urge to hear the messages of the Supreme Lord. And these messages in themselves are only so virtuous. And when you are hearing it properly, so who is coming and Vidhunoti means the Supreme Lord personally comes and sits in your heart. And why? Because he is the Surit Satanam. He is the ever well-wishing friend of Satam. Satam means devotees. So Shrinvata, those who have developed this urge of hearing the message of God, Swakatha. Swakatha means his own pastimes. Okay. And Krishna. So Swakatha Krishna means Krishna's own pastimes who has developed his urge. And Punya Shravana Kirtana. So he's saying that these pastimes that are there, or whoever is hearing and chanting, these pastimes are very, very virtuous. Whoever is hearing this. And then Hridhi Antistita. So within one's heart, Krishna is entering. And what is he doing? He is Abhadrani. He is actually, destroying all that desires to enjoy matter. He's, destroying all the sins also. So he will destroy the sins, but the sinful propensities he will not be able to destroy, because the sinful propensities will still remain. So if somebody has this sinful tendency, he will still, keep on. But anybody who is going to hear the pastimes of the Supreme Lord will definitely be able to, eradicate all. Krishna personally will come and he will eradicate all the sins of that particular person. So now if you see in this particular, concluding mantra that has been given over here is, so after, all those 17 mantras, now this 18 mantra is that, the devotee is actually praying to the Lord to guide him on the path to reach him. So the omnipotent Lord, he guides that devotee towards perfection. So that is why, if you see, I have, in the very, very first line of the book, Srila Prabhupada says that Sri ISHOPANISHAD brings one nearer to the personality of Godhead. And this particular 18 mantra is actually the concluding prayer of the devotee who desires to achieve Krishna's mercy. So this particular mantra, is like, he's praying, please, remove the obstacles on my path. And, this path of self-realization has three aspects. One is the progress, and one is the fall down, and one is the best path. So the progress will be like, how will this progress be possible? How to progress? What are the hindrances? And okay, if somebody falls down, then when does that particular person fall down? What is the hope after that fall down of a particular person? Or are there any remedial measures after the fall down? And he's saying that devotional service is the best path. Why it is the best path? Because there are special offers offered to the sincere practitioner or the sincere devotee. And how this devotion service the best and superior to all other paths of self-realization, then he'll give a lot of many, reasonings for that. So Prabhupada, discusses different processes for getting free from sinful reactions. So as this mantra suggests that the best way is to surrender, and the Lord will burn up all the reactions. But then this first paragraph is actually the first question it's answering, is that how obstacles on the path of progress are originating. So by surrendering to the Lord and praying for his causeless mercy, this devotee can progress to the complete self-realization path. And the karma kanda path of self-realization is like the lowest stage of endeavor. So from the karma kanda to the gyan kanda to the dhyan, or to the last stage of bhakti. So as soon as such activities even slightly deviate us from this regulative principles, then as we saw previously also, they are transformed into vikarma, which are against the regulative principles, or acts against the interest of the devotee, so, or the Supreme Lord. So that's where we have to actually check upon that what are my activities. Are they based on the religious principles? Are they not based on religious principles? Or then in a very subtle way, these activities will take me away from Krishna consciousness. That check has to be there. So let's go and see the next paragraph. Yeah, Matsendra Prabhu, please read.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Yes, self-realization is possible in the human form of life, but not in other forms. There are 8,400,000 species or forms of life, of which the human form qualified by Brahminical culture presents the only chance to obtain knowledge of transcendence. Brahminical culture includes truthfulness, sense control, forbearance, simplicity, full knowledge, and full faith in God. It is not that one simply becomes proud of the high parentage, just as being born the son of a big man affords one a chance to become a big man. So, being born the son of a Brahmana gives one a chance to become a Brahmana. But such a birthright is not everything, for one still has to attain the Brahminical qualifications for himself. As soon as one becomes proud of his birth as the son of a Brahmana and neglects to acquire the qualifications of a real Brahmana, he at once becomes degraded and falls from the path of self-realization. Thus, his life mission as a human being is defeated. Thank you.
Yeah, you can read this paragraph also. The second.
Okay, Mataji. Okay, Mataji. In the Bhagavad Gita 6.41 and 42, we are assured by the Lord that the yoga brashtas, or souls fallen from the path of self-realization, are given a chance to rectify themselves by taking birth either in the families of a good brahmanas or in the families of rich merchants. Such births afford higher chances for self-realization. If these chances are misused due to illusion, one loses the good opportunity of human life afforded by the Almighty Lord.
Yeah. Thank you, Prabhu. Thank you so much. So now if you see in this particular, these two paragraphs, what is Prabhupada trying to explain? That high parentage does not guarantee self-realization. High parentage is just a facility to attain self-realization. So self-realization is possible only in the human form of life, and not any other form of any other form, whether you are in the animal species or the bird species or any. And this human form, who is a brahmana, who is actually qualifying, then only he has the chance to obtain knowledge of the transcendental. So this analogy, is being given by Srila Prabhupada. He's saying that if I'm born as the son of a very big man, okay, and okay, I got a chance to become the son of a big man, and even I got a chance to become a big man. So being born as a son of a Brahmana gives one chance to become a Brahmana. I'm born in a Brahmana family, so I become a Brahmana. If I'm born in a Kshatriya family, then I am actually become a Kshatriya. So birthright is not everything. For still, if I'm born in a Brahmana family, I still have to attain those Brahmanical qualifications for my own self. Qualities I cannot purchase. Qualities I cannot go and demand to anybody in the bazaar also, or to anybody and just catch the collar. Okay, you're a Brahmana, please transfer all your qualities. No, I have to cultivate those qualities. So Srila Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati Thakur was very, 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 very firm on this thing that if a particular person is born in a Brahmana family, but he does not have the qualities of a Brahmana, then, makes no sense. Like in the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna has given the qualities of a Brahmana. If you see the 18th chapter, 42 number shlok, which says that, what are the qualities of a Brahmana. So the qualities of a Brahmana: peacefulness, self-control, austerity, purity, tolerance, honesty, knowledge, wisdom, religiousness. So these are very natural qualities for a Brahmana. Okay. So if a particular person has all these qualities, so then he can be declared as a Brahmana. But as soon as a particular person becomes proud of his birth, that I'm the son of a Brahmana, then what happens? He might neglect to even acquire the qualifications of a real Brahmana. And that's where he actually degrades himself and falls away from the path of self-realization. Brahmana means actually he's going towards the path of self-realization. Okay, so that's where, Prabhupada is actually saying that all these, the Bhagavad Gita 6th chapter that he was saying in this paragraph, that, all these yoga prashtas or the fallen souls from the path of self-realization, again, they're given a chance to rectify themselves, and they can take birth in, some good families as good Brahmanas, or in rich families as rich merchants. So there's a very nice verse in the Ramayana by Lord Ram. I don't remember the shloka, but he says that if a person even once says that, my dear Lord, from this day onwards, I'm yours, then Lord Ram says that I will never forget that person. And Srila Rupa Goswami also, in the Nectar of Devotion, he says that, he says that in the NOD, he's saying that Srila Prabhupada also has quoted this 2 to 3 places. So the whole incident is that actually Vibhishan has come to surrender to Lord Ram, and Sugriva is saying that, okay, let us kill this Vibhishan because he is the brother of Ravana and he might have come in disguise. So the Supreme Lord, Lord Ram, he gets angry, and then Lord Ramachandra, he says this particular verse that no, even if Ravana will come and say that, I am yours from this day, even Ravana, if he comes and surrenders, then this is my nature, that I am bound to give protection to that particular devotee. So then what to speak of, we living entities, even if we say that, Krishna, I am yours from this day. So definitely the Lord will never ever forget us. So whenever, so, I was just thinking and pondering when I was actually preparing for this class yesterday. I was thinking that we have, two types of faith. We have a very, weak faith, and we have a very pure faith. So weak faith में ये हो जाता है that, you don't have enough faith in the Supreme Lord, and that is why there are chances of, drifting away. But when you have a strong faith, then, you move ahead. Then how many ever calamities will come, you will, you will bypass those, you will cross over those calamities, or you will, बोलते हैं ना हिंदी में, आप झेल लोगे उनको. Why? Because there is a higher thought. Opposed to that, some people, if there are many calamities in their life, what they think that, oh, this Shani Graha is affecting me, or this Rahu Graha is affecting me, and they are in control. No. Once a particular person becomes a devotee, once a particular person becomes a devotee of Krishna and he starts chanting the very first round, say, Krishna takes control of your life, then all these grahas, they don't affect you at all. Then somebody might say that, मैं जब chanting नहीं कर रहा था या कर रही थी, उससे पहले मेरी जिंदगी बहुत आरामदायक थी, my life was very peaceful before chanting. But now that, I've started chanting, the whole turmoil in my life has started after chanting only. And I go to this astrologer, that astrologer, this astrologer saying साढ़े साथी है, this ढैया चल रही है, ये चल रहा है, वो चल रहा है. But Krishna sitting over there is thinking that, hey boy, I am giving you these calamities to purify you, and you have taken up to this devotional service, you're surrendering unto me. These calamities have come upon you so that you may surrender to me more and more. And rather than going to astrologers and different types of people, why don't you surrender to me in toto? Please surrender to me. So Krishna over there is feeling so this, that, that here he's, he's, chanting my name, he's trying to surrender to me, but he does not have this enough faith. So I was just asking somebody this question that, what is the reason, like, so the reason is that the reason of a weak faith is that a particular person who goes to these different types of babajis and different types of doctors or different types of astrologers and all, that particular person does not have enough faith in Krishna. And that is why he goes into anxiety, he goes into some very confused state of mind, because his faith is very weak, and he does not have full faith in the Supreme Lord. Now somebody might ask that, okay, I have a weak faith, then what do I do? I have a weak faith, तो मैं क्या करूं, मेरे पास weak faith है. So when a particular person has a weak faith, then he has to take shelter of two people, Granth Bhagwat and Person Bhagwat. He has to take, shelter of two. So he has to take the shelter of the Shastras also, and he has to take the shelter of the pure devotees also. Why? Because those who have strong faith will be able to give strong faith. Those who have weak faith will not be able to give, faith at all. So we have to take shelter of these two. So as and when you keep on reading Shastras, your faith will become more and more stronger in the Supreme Lord. And then when these calamities will come, then we will start thinking in the direction of Srimati Kunti Maharani. She is saying that let these calamities come to me again and again. Because when these calamities will come to me, then I am remembering you again and again. And remembering you again and again means to come out of the cycle of birth and death. So these are some of my thoughts actually, and whatever I've read and whatever I've experienced in my life. Okay, let's go to the next. Yeah, somebody read this. Kalyani Mataji, read.
Yes. The regulatory principles are such that one who follows them is promoted from the platform of tutive activities to the platform of transcendental knowledge. After many lifetimes of cultivating transcendental knowledge, one becomes perfect when he surrenders unto the Lord. This is the general procedure. But one who surrenders at the very beginning, as recommended in this mantra, at once surpasses all preliminary stages simply by adopting the devotional attitude. As stated in the Bhagavad Gita 18.66, the Lord at once takes charge of such a surrendered soul and frees him from all the reaction to his sinful acts. There are many sinful reactions involved in karma kanda activities, whereas in Gyan Kand, the path of philosophical development, the number of such sinful activities is smaller. But in devotional service to the Lord, the path of bhakti, there is practically no chance of incurring sinful reactions, because a devotee of the Lord attains all the good qualifications of the Lord Himself. What to speak of those of a Brahmana? A devotee automatically attains the qualification of an expert Brahman authorized to perform sacrifices, even though the devotee may not have taken his birth in a Brahmana family. Such is the omnipotence of the Lord. He can make a man born in a Brahmana family as degraded as a low-born dog-eater, and he can also make a low-born dog-eater superior to a qualified Brahmana simply on the strength of devotional service.
So powerful, so powerful. Srila Prabhupada is saying over here that if we do not use this facility for devotional service, then we will be degraded. And on the other hand, if a devotee will get facility, he'll get all the facility, if he's trying to develop. So, this particular paragraph is, talking about the rise and fall in Krishna consciousness. So you have, we had seen in the very beginning, we had seen karma, akarma, and vikarma. So karma will, gradual elevation by karma kanda, slowly, and vikarma means, you will be degraded because you're not following the regulative principles or religious principles. And akarma means, you're doing everything for the Supreme Lord. Then there will be a rapid elevation, by Krishna consciousness. So in karma, there are many lives, and in many lives where, Vasudeva Sarvamiti. So this is like a general procedure. But one who surrenders at the very beginning only, so immediately he will surpass karma, jnana, and everything, and he will, come to the bhakti stage. And for such a person, the Lord immediately will take charge. As I actually told you previously also, that what happens the moment a particular person starts chanting and he is surrendering, then immediately the Lord becomes in control. So currently in all our lives, okay, हम सभी की जीवन में हमारे, it means all of us, who is the controller of our lives? Krishna is the controller of our lives. So immediately he will take control. So we are not in control at that point of time. So in karma kanda, he's saying that there are many sins. Then jnana kanda, there will be little lesser sins. But bhakti life, then practically there is no chance of sins. Why there is no chance of sins? Vidhonoti surit satam. Krishna is coming and, washing those sins. And automatically then the devotee, becomes an expert Brahmana. He acquires those qualifications, and he is authorized to perform all those sacrifices. Even if this devotee has not taken birth in a Brahmana family. So, birth is not the qualification. The qualification is the qualities that you develop. And the Supreme Lord then, because the Supreme Lord is omnipotent, then he can make this, person who's born in a Brahmana family, He can make that person as low as a dog eater. Like you see nowadays, okay, there are so many people who are born into Brahmana family. But what are they doing? They are drinking liquor, they are eating meat, they are womenizing, they are doing prostitution, they are drinking cigarettes. So, they've gone degraded. But opposite to that, there are so many people who were born into the Shudra category, who were born into Shudras, who were born as Vaishyas, and still, even the lowest, people, if you see in the West, people were eating meat 3 times a day. So, such people have also become, very, very superior, and they have elevated themselves to qualified Brahmana simply on the stage of bhakti, on the strength of bhakti. So, bhakti is so powerful that it can uplift even a dog eater to a Brahmana level. That is the power of bhakti. So, this is what is being said into this fourth paragraph. Let's see the next paragraph. Sushil Prabhu, please read this paragraph. You're able to see the screen, Sushil Prabhu?
Hare Krishna Mataji.
Yeah.
Since the omnipotent Lord is situated within the heart of everyone, he can give directions to his sincere devotees by which they can attain the right path. Such directions are specially offered to the devotee, even he desires something else. As far as others are concerned, God gives sanction to the doer only at the risk of the doer. But in the case of a devotee, the Lord directs him in such a way that he never acts wrongly. The Srimad Bhagavatam 11.5.42 says, Swapada Mulam Vajantaha Priyasha Tvaktanya Bhavasya Harihi Paresha Vikrama Yes Swatpatitam Kanchit Kathanchit Dhunoti Sarvam Ridi Sannivasya Vasishta. The Lord is so kind to the devotee who is fully surrendered to his lotus feet that even though the devotee sometimes falls into the entanglement of Vikarma, acts against the Vedic directions, the Lord at once rectifies such mistakes from within his heart. This is because the devotees are very dear to the Lord. In this mantra of ISHOPANISHAD, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from within his heart. To err is human. A conditioned soul is very often apt to commit mistakes, and the only remedial measures to take against such unintentional sins is to give oneself up to the lotus feet of the Lord, so that he may guide one to avoid such pitfalls. The Lord takes charge of fully surrendered souls. Thus, all problems are solved simply by surrendering oneself unto the Lord and acting in terms of his directions. Such directions are given to the sincere devotees in two ways. One is by the way of saints, scriptures, and spiritual master, and the other is by way of Lord himself, who resides within the heart of everyone. Thus, the devotee, fully enlightened with Vedic knowledge, is protected in all respects. Vedic knowledge is transcendental and cannot be understood by mundane educational procedures. One can understand the Vedic mantras only by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master. Yesha deve paravakti retha deva tatha guru. If one takes shelter of the bona fide spiritual master, it is to be understood that he has obtained the grace of the Lord. The spiritual master, the Vedic injunction, and the Lord himself from within all guide the devotees in full strength. In this way, there is no chance for a devotee to fall again into the mire of material illusion. The devotees, thus protected all around, is sure to reach the ultimate destination of perfection. The entire process is hinted at in this mantra, and Srimad Bhagavatam 1.2.17 to 20 explains it further. Hearing the chanting, the glories of the Lord is itself an act of piety. The Lord wants everyone to hear and chant his glories because he is the well-wisher of all living entities. By hearing and chanting the glories of the Lord, one becomes cleansed of all undesirable things. And then one's devotion becomes fixed upon the Lord. At this stage, the devotee acquires the Brahmanical qualification, and the effects of the lower modes of nature, passion and ignorance, completely vanish. The devotee becomes fully enlightened by virtue of his devotional service, and thus he comes to know the path of the Lord and the way to attain him. As all doubts diminish, he becomes a pure devotee. Thus end the Bhaktivedanta purpose to Sri ISHOPANISHAD, the knowledge that brings one nearer to the Supreme Personality of the Godhead, Krishna. Hare Krishna, Mataji.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Prabhu, for concluding this. Thank you.
Thank you, Mataji.
Yeah. So, this is something really very nice because recently, actually, we've been studying actually the second chapter of the first canto. And, for a devotee, the Lord is giving direction. The Lord is keeping him safe. While, for the others who are not devotees of the Supreme Lord, they are on their own. बोलते ना वो अनाथ है. लेकिन we all devotees are sarnath, means we have somebody to protect us, like how the child is protected. But somebody who is an orphan, there is nobody to protect, and that poor child is on his own. So this is the omnipotence of the Lord, means you have more faith in his ability than doubt about our own inability. And we are battling also against anarthas. We feel helpless, defeated, we struggle and defeat, and then struggle, and then success, and then effortless success we have. So the since the omnipotent Lord is situated in everybody's heart, he can give directions to all the sincere devotees so that they can actually attain that right path. And these directions that the Supreme Lord is giving is they are given to the devotees only. So this particular facility is given only to the devotee, even if the devotee is desiring something else. But this facility is even given to the devotees. So as far as others are concerned, God is like Upadrishta and Anumanta. Upadrishta means he's just witnessing, and Anumanta means he's just sanctioning. So God is giving sanctioning at the risk of that particular doer. But in case of the devotees, the Lord directs him or guides him in such a way that he will never act wrongly. And that's where that shloka from the 11th canto was there. And now this particular mantra of Sri ISHOPANISHAD, the devotee prays to the Lord to rectify him from within the heart. Why? Because he feels, even though he's rectified, he feels himself so that actually that is the humility of a devotee over here, that he's thinking that, okay, I'm doing some mistake, please guide me, please help me. So conditioned soul, Prabhupada is saying that we might have made so many mistakes, and the only remedial measure is to take take shelter of the Supreme Lord against such unintentional sins that is done, and to give oneself to the lotus feet of the Supreme Lord, so that the Supreme Lord will help us, or he may guide us to avoid such pitfalls. So the directions that are given to the sincere devotees, there are in two ways. One by the way of saints, as I told, and one by the way of scriptures and the spiritual master, Guru, Sadhu, and Shastra. And the other way is by the Supreme Lord himself, who's residing in everybody's heart as the super soul or the Paramatma. So that is why, what I wanted to say, just forgot some important point I wanted to say. So the saying is that never give up. So we never lose till we lose hope. So Krishna hasn't lost hope on us for so many lifetimes. Then why should we lose hope due to the struggle of a very few years in this one short lifetime? So, one can really understand the Vedic mantras only by the grace of the Lord and the spiritual master, but not by any mundane educational procedures, how much ever a person might, do his doctorate and MS and all these. Nobody can understand the Vedic mantras. And the last paragraph that he's saying is that, he's explaining further that all these verses that are there, this hearing and chanting, and somebody's hearing and chanting, then he's cleansed of all the undesirable things. Then once devotion becomes very fixed upon the Lord, then he's acquiring Brahminical qualifications, then he becomes enlightened, and then he knows, he comes to know the path of the Supreme Lord and how to attain him. So all his doubts are, diminished. And once these doubts are diminished, then he becomes a very pure devotee. So, in this particular text, that is mantra 18, the speaker is, or the devotee is actually humbly throwing himself at the lotus feet of Krishna, and he's begging for his guidance and for his help to become free from, karmas. And Prabhupada is actually, explaining that only by surrendering to the Supreme Lord and praying for his causeless mercy, the devotee can progress on the path of self-realization. So he says complete self-realization, not only half, but complete in toto. So the Lord is also, addressed over here as like, fire, because he can burn into ashes all our sins. Whoever is surrendered to the Supreme Lord, all his sins will be, burnt the very moment, he started chanting. So, Srila Prabhupada is saying that we should utilize this human form of birth to become, God realized and surrender to the Supreme Lord. And once we surrender, then we'll surpass all other processes. And when one surrenders to the Supreme Lord, then who will take control? Krishna will take control of the life of a devotee and help him, guide him very mercifully. Even whatever stock of sinful reactions he has, that also will be removed. And, he will be able to, cross over, whatever he has done into this particular, lifetimes, that all will be, removed. And he'll be able to develop loving service to the Supreme Lord. Why? Because the Lord is manifesting through the spiritual master. He is helping the devotee from within also and without also. Andar se bhi guide kar rahe, bahar se bhi guide kar rahe hai. And in this way, the devotee is very safe and secure on the spiritual path. And as in when he keeps on hearing and chanting about the Supreme Lord more and more, his ways become cleared. And Prabhupada, is concluding, he's saying that by hearing, chanting the glories of the Lord, one will become cleansed of all the undesirable things. And then one's devotion will become fixed upon the Lord. So irrespective of whatever your atmosphere is, you will remain undisturbed from within. If Adi Devik, Adi Bhautik, Adi Adhyatmik, there is an earthquake had happened, but you will be still equipoised. There is somebody who is troubling you, your neighbors are troubling you, your family members are troubling you, your friends are troubling you, they're torturing you also, but you will remain undisturbed. You'll remain equipoised from inside. Because जहां अंदर शांति होगी वहां बाहर भी शांति होगी. So at this stage the devotee is acquiring brahminical qualifications to be, sama, dhamma, tapa, tolerant, and all the effects of these lower modes of nature will completely vanish, and this devotee will become fully enlightened by the virtue of this devotional service, and he comes to know that the path of the Lord and the way to attain him, all his doubts will be diminished, and once his doubts will be diminished, then he'll become a very, very pure devotee. So this is what is being said in this mantra. So I just rest my speech over here. Anybody has any questions, queries, you'll have to ask me.
Hare Krishna Mataji. Dhanavat Pranam.
Yeah.
Sarita here. Mataji, in this mantra 18, there is this line which says, Srila Prabhupada writes that that the Lord is so kind upon his devotee that even though he sometimes falls into the entanglement of vikarma, acts against the direction of the Vedas, the Lord at once rectifies the mistakes of the devotee from within his heart, because such devotees are very dear to the Lord. Mataji, can you give any examples like that in your mind?
Yeah. For Vikarma, if you see, there were so many, like Ajamil. Ajamil is the best example. And there are so many devotees, if you see that who had drifted away from that path. But again, the Lord, Supreme Lord bought them somehow or the other. Like, see, for Ajamil also, why was his last son's name Narayan kept as Narayan? Ajamil did not keep his son's name Narayan. There were some Brahmanas who had come on his door, and Ajamil was not there at that point of time. Ajamil's wife was there at that point of time. Those Brahmanas had kept the name Narayana. The last son's name is Narayan. And Ajamil, because previous life was pious and all, he said, okay, Narayan, not Narayan, like we'll call him Narayan only. Because previous to this, Ajamil had many, children. But the last son's name was kept as Narayan. So, somehow through Guru Sadhu Shastra, he was, revived from his sinful activities. And then in the next birth, he had to go to Haridwar and he practiced devotional service and he attained perfection as such. So, Ajamil is there. Even in Chaitanya Charitamrita, if you see Gopal Chapal, what to speak of even that, even, in Mahabharata also, so much of chances were given by so many this, but ultimately they came to know that Krishna is the supreme, and then they started. But the Lord is very merciful. For Putana also, he was able to give her that chance of a dhatri in the spiritual world. And all these demons that were there in Krishna Leela, they were also, given Sarupya Mukti. They were given the same they were given the same this as the Supreme Lord in the spiritual world. So the Lord is very merciful, but only we need to realize that how merciful the Supreme Lord is. That, gradually, even if I'm degraded to, due to vikarma, then the Supreme Lord will help me out. From within, he will definitely help me out. Okay, Sucharita Mataji.
Thank you, Mataji. Yes.
Yeah. Sahiba?
Hi, Krishna Mataji. Mataji, I think we were talking about the obstacles and then the progress on the path of devotion, right?
Yes.
So then we were talking about karma yoga to Gyan yoga, Dhyan yoga, and then to bhakti yoga. And then I think we discussed that if there is like a little deviation on this path, so it leads to vikarma. And after that, we spoke of yoga brashtas. I think this was the word, if I'm not wrong.
Yeah, yoga brashtas, or the fallen souls from the path of self-realization. They are given a chance to, by themselves, either by taking birth in the family of good brahmanas, or, rich merchants, that way.
Yes, Mataji. So are those the ones who are those who get deviated from the path and who perform vikarma?
Yeah, they might, get into the, three modes of material nature. They might get entangled, and they might, see, actually, when he's saying, if you see the sixth chapter, it's actually been the yogis also. So these yogis, what happened? They go, to the Himalayas, and they, perform meditation for many, many years. But then, all of a sudden, because there is no taste or there is no variety, so then, they come down, and then they become either philanthropists, or they open some hospitals, or even those yogis who have not perfected their lives. Okay. Or those yogis who thought that, okay, I just give up this, and, I go back to my normal, karma kanda things, or this, then they are given a chance to rectify themselves in the next birth. Now, in these particular two paragraphs, if you see, of the Bhagavad Gita 6.41 and 6.42, if you'll read, just give me 1 minute, okay? I will just. We'll quickly go to that library. Yeah. So he says that the successful yogi, after many, many years of enjoyment on the planets of pious living, is born into a family of righteous people or into a family of rich aristocracy. So the unsuccessful yogis are divided into two classes. One is fallen after very little progress, and one is after a long practice. And the yogi who falls after a short period of practice goes to the higher planets, whereas the pious living entities are allowed to enter. After a prolonged life, there is one who's sent back again to this planet to take birth in the family of Brahmanas or a Vaishnava or aristocratic. So there are some people who have done good yoga practice, and those who have done also something, but then these people are born into, Brahmana, Vaishnava, or, as a rich people's house. And the purpose of yoga practice is to achieve the highest perfection, Krishna consciousness. But those who do not preserve to such an extent and who fail to material allurements, then they are allowed by the grace of the Lord to make full utilization of their material propensities. And after that, they are given opportunities to prosper lives in the aristocratic families. But those who are born in such families may take advantage of the facilities and again try to elevate themselves. तो जो योगी है, जो ध्यान योग कर रहा है, and he is meditating on the Paramatma form of the Lord, the four-handed Paramatma form of the Lord, then such people, अगर पथभ्रष्ट हो भी जाते हैं, even if they've fallen from this path of self-realization, then they take birth as in the family of the Brahmanas, where they can still continue. Where even Krishna says in the Bhagavad Gita, he says that Neha Vikramanasthuti Pratyavayana Vidyate Swalpami Dharvasya Strayate Mahato Bhayataha. So there is no loss or diminution on this path. Why? Because he can continue from wherever he has left. If he is left from 20th percentage, then he can continue from 21st percentage. If he is left from 40 percentage, then he can continue from 41st percentage. इस तरह से. Okay, Kalyani Mataji?
Yes, Mataji, thank you so much. Mataji, if no one has a question, so can I ask one more, or maybe you can take
sure.
others?
Yeah, you can answer.
Okay. Mataji, we were also talking about faith, right? So, as in, I think we discussed that if there is some person who starts off chanting one round also with faith, so the grahas, they don't affect, right? And then if we want to build up our faith, we should take shelter of Granth Bhagavad and also Person Bhagavad. Like how we would want to go in the association of devotees who might tell us, don't. don't go to any astrologer. But then we see also like a general practice within devotees, generally when they want to go for a marriage, just an example, that they do go to the astrologer. And in fact, they do recommend astrologers also that please go and check. So how do we understand this then?
Yeah, Prabhupada has also said that for basic compatibility between a boy and a girl, that much astrology, how much is required, that much only, but not every month and every frequently running to the astrologers. That is not recommended. Now, for example, a young girl is there and then, she's of a marriageable age, then definitely they will go in for compatibility. कि कितना compatible है. And बस I think उतने तक का ही सीमित रखना है हमें. Just that much is only enough for, knowing, okay, that, it is, okay, the match is compatible. But not beyond that. Then every time, okay, बच्चा होगा नहीं होगा, ये होगा या नहीं होगा, business चलेगा नहीं चलेगा, for every, small things to take shelter of that astrologer, then that is not recommended. Prabhupada has definitely suggested that for astrology, compatible match or something, matchmaking, then you all can go to the astrologer.
Okay, Mataji. Mataji, one more question I had, I can ask.
Yeah, ask.
Mataji, we were talking about karma, akarma, and vikarma, right?
Yes, yeah.
Mataji, I think, I'm not sure, but I think it was Isho 2, wherein we had discussed about this also, right?
Yes, yes.
So in that, like in the purport, if I remember, Prabhupada was talking about akarma as also naisha karma, right? So yeah, so in that he said that they are actions which free us from birth and death. So that is also bhakti yoga, right? So is it that akarma is bhakti yoga, or what is the difference between the two?
No, see, when we had seen in, this, that anything you are, you remember we had done with one exercise, karma,
Yes,
akarma, and vikarma.
vikarma.
Karma
Yes.
is, you are, going according to the, regulative principles, right? So, शास्त्रों के हिसाब से अगर आप चल रहे हो, then that is like, karma. But if you're going against the shastras, then that is what?
Vikarma.
Okay, because you're not following the shastras. And then if somebody is going beyond, he's doing karmas also, but he's doing karma for the Supreme Personality of Godhead, for, preaching, or to expand his, क्या बोलते हैं, glories, then that becomes a karma. Why? Because now you are doing it for the Supreme Lord. So karma is like, normal aap kar rahe ho according to, the regulative principles. But now if you're doing any activity, like for example, you are doing some activity, for example, you're cooking. Okay. So you're cooking what? You're cooking for the Supreme Lord, then that becomes a karma. Then it is not into a bondage, right? So Nishkam Karma Yoga is like, acting in God consciousness, because it will always, save us from the greatest danger, and it will, give you a human form of birth in the next birth also, and it will make our lives also valuable. And this practical solution is given actually in Nectar of Devotion. So karma bandhana, is like, birth and death. But not acting according to the prescribed duties, then that becomes vikarma. And karma is actually you're doing it for your own sense gratification. This is what's been, said. So like only so so when only human life that is there, which is free from all this karma and vikarma, then we can gradually, realize the authority of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. And that's where, that's where we'll go closer to attaining even the positive knowledge. And then these modes that are there, they will not act upon us. So how will somebody will ask that, a lifelong means, living intelligently. So else even, stones and trees also they are living, but their life has no value. So what is the meaning that there is no alternative only for life? So, well, intelligently living means only, that you are living for the Supreme Personality Godhead. You can come out of this disaster, and everybody wants to live long life. So this karma bandhana only is causing the death. Death of what? Death of spirituality. Everybody wants to live long, right? But what is causing death? That nobody wants to die, because as long as he can drag on, but we are eternal. So due to this karma bandhana only, one has to change his body again and again and again. That is called karma bandhana. And then one has to live his, livelihood. And if he does not act, to his prescribed duties, then, he is like, more and more into this, cycle of birth and death. So human life, is offering us liberation through a karma. So, animals also changing bodies, and human life is also having a chance to get free from this chain of karma. So karma means action performed in terms of one's prescribed duty, as Prabhupada was mentioning over there. And akarma is actions that are freeing one from the cycle of birth and death. This is, the intelligent man will prefer this. And karma and vikarma, they are binding to the material miseries. But akarma will free you from the cycle of birth and death, and you will not have miseries usme. That is the best part. So now Ishopanishad, this particular that paragraph of, second paragraph was actually describing a karma. So when you are studying Vedas, then Vedas will ultimately lead us to a karma. And how will Vedas lead us to a karma? Then, in the Bhagavad Gita, it is said that, this neshkarma that is there, or akarma, without executing the prescribed duties, mentioned in the Vedas, that is there. So one cannot attain without executing his prescribed duties. So, it can, the Vedas can regulate the working energy of a human being in such a way that he can gradually, slowly go to the, realize that the Supreme Lord is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Because over here we are seeing all human beings, all living beings we are seeing, but we do not know that there is a Supreme Being in the spiritual world. And when he will realize that there is an authority, there is a personality who is Vasudeva, who is Krishna, and this person is to be understood, then he will attain, that positive knowledge. And then he will purify, he'll get purified from the modes of nature, goodness, passion, and ignorance. And then these modes will not act upon him. And then he will be able to work on the basis of nishkam karma or akarma. And then this particular nishkam karma will, or akarma, will not bind him into the cycle of birth and death. Fine? Is that answering your question?
Yes, Mataji. Just a small clarification.
Yeah, sure.
Mataji, Nishkarma is not Bhakti Yoga, right?
Nishkarma is, Nishkarma means what? कि आप जो भी कार्य कर रहे हैं वो निष्काम भावना से कर रहे हैं. आप कुछ पाने की इच्छा से नहीं कर रहे हो. You don't want to attain something. So See the very word है ना, निष्काम, है ना, कोई इच्छा न रखते हुए, कोई लस्ट न रखते हुए, you're doing that, work, and then if you do that work for Krishna, then that is only called a karma, or then that becomes bhakti. Okay.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you. Thank you, Mataji.
Some more clarifications on this? Anybody wants? Yeah, so now coming to the main part of the announcements, I'll just stop the video.